morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of our Cyber Workforce Summit. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all virtually for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started with some opening remarks from Mr. Ryder. He is our Don CIO Chief Workforce Officer. Mr. Ryder, over to you. How's it going?
His camera has to get turned on.
Sound from Teams?
Yeah, he has to turn his camera on.
I didn't know how to use his camera.
Oh, great. Check your audio.
He's not going to do camera.
Yeah, that's fine. We're just gonna get the sound coming out.
1 second for us. We're just waiting to get the sound here in the room.
Yeah, you have to make some kind of noise for us to hear him.
I think he's trying to talk.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I see him trying to talk.
Not as much as this, right?
1 second, folks.
Virtually, I can hear you, so they can hear him virtually, okay. Just type it in, sir. Let me get online.
Or you think it's him trying to talk?
Yeah, okay, all right.
We can do like sound monitoring. Yeah. You do a mixer.
Here, try that.
For all of us, we're just waiting. We're going to get some sound here in the room.
You know what everybody's thinking? Why did Derek jinx it yesterday? Yep, you're right.
I think it was me that jinxed it. Derek, are we good to go? No. It's all right. I mean, it's the third day. I mean, we got.
We know it's not gonna work for this with my phone against laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear virtually.
I see it's on. I see it. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, okay.
We gotcha. There's an echo.
Oh, it's, let's,
Okay. One, almost there. Mhm. Next is our daily recap.
Somebody just want to go all John Cusack and hold up the speaker?
Good to go. All right.
Technology.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
All right, Mr. Ryder, we got you loud and clear. Good morning.
Thank God we have a room full of cyber people who know how to fix computers. So this will be my last time addressing you as the Don CIO, Chief Workforce Officer. Let me get that housekeeping out of the way. This has nothing to do with politics or any of the executive orders. I came to the Pentagon for a 3-year tour about 6 years ago, and it's my time to rotate back to the intelligence community, where I'll be going in another 2 weeks. That said, I feel like I'm leaving you in incredibly capable and competent hands and in good shape. Yesterday, I signed off on the GOFO SES level for the new SecNav 5239 manual, which leaves only principal level review and the SecNav's actual signature to make that manual a reality. I leave you all with a solid leadership team and the most cohesive group of cyber workforce professionals we have ever had. You have all done such an exceptional job that DoD is copying our homework, and the first DoD Cyber Workforce Summit will be held in March, in a little over a month from now. And I just want to put out there, I know we've spent a lot of time and effort on dashboards and metrics, and we spend a lot of time talking about different ways to evaluate the health of the workforce and all the different work roles within it and training qualification standards. And for those of you that may think that maybe we're spending a little too much time and effort on these things, I'll leave you with this. You measure what matters, and all of the effort that we're putting into these measures, these metrics, these dashboards should make it clear to all of you how much you and this whole community matter. And with that, I turn you over to the competent leadership you have there in the room.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. We appreciate it. All right. So as Mr. Ryder said, the past 2 days we've gone through quite a bit with you guys. It took a look at where our policy and our transition stands. And then yesterday we focused a lot in looking at different ways that we're capturing the qualifications and what the workforce makeup is for each of the commands, and how we're doing that via dashboards and being able to visualize the various things. So with a lot of the questions that came through, understanding how to implement the program, hopefully all of that is coming clear. Any questions you guys have, please feel free to reach out to us. Today we're going to get into a little bit more specifics about implementing the program. We're going to have Captain Pinder with NCDOC. She's going to talk to us about how they're implementing the residential qualification process at their command. So another look, a view from a command, and how they're implementing something that we could look into leveraging and sharing across to implement. We're also going to have Dawn Fish with OCHR. She's going to present virtually to us. A lot of the questions we get asked is about incentives. How do we hire? How do we retain our workforce folks? She's going to talk about all of that. We have a close collaboration with OCHR. When we started getting into this program, we recognized the workforce PM that's appointed to run the program cannot do it alone. They have to be side by side working with their HR and manpower folks and the supervisors, because it's affecting personnel. It's a person's qualifications that they're going through. So we work with HR in order to put out all of the guidance that you guys have when you're running into roadblocks on how to code the folks, how to put them on a timeline to meet qualifications, your bargaining unions, all of that we work with OCHR to do. So we're very appreciative that she wants to present to us some of the cyber incentives that are available to help you guys out. And then we're going to see from NAVC, we're going to talk about a CORA inspection and the cyber workforce piece of it, as one of the commands went through a CORA inspection. So getting a view for how do you prepare in the event that you're inspected, or even just to be able to self-evaluate the program that you're running and what do you need to have in place? What is they're looking for, and how do you audit that? And then we're going to get another view from a command from Mr. Suji. He's going to talk about the Marfor PAC and how they're running their cyber workforce. So we've got a great last day in store for you guys. Very excited. Again, let's make this as interactive as we can. If there's questions that you guys have, please. Thank you, Derek. What do you have?
Test. Okay, thank you. It looks like, according to the schedule, we have a little bit of time before Captain Pender is up and running. So I had a question. Can you let us know how we should best go about using the experience credential to include what is on cyber.mil and their worksheet that they have out there, and maybe how we can incorporate the workbook in order to be able to finalize actually doing an experience credential?
Sure. So the experience credential workbook is posted on cyber.mil, available for everyone's use. We helped to create that with DoD CIO. So we are very familiar with the process that you're using. You run through essentially the workbook. You create your panel of the team members that will be doing the evaluation. I think the directions are kind of pretty self-explanatory to do that. And once you have completed all of the KSATs and being able to show the demonstration of the experience, it will pop out with a certificate. And this certificate is what needs to be maintained in order to credential the employee. Does that help?
Yeah, just a couple follow-on questions to that. So, understandably, DoD built a worksheet, right? So it's just, you fill some stuff out. They don't, I think they talk about the KSATs in there. Just so the idea would be, we would grab that worksheet off cyber.mil. We'd also have the workbook to our side so that we could actually run through the process of it, and then we would use the certificate as once we run through and we know someone has experience, then we would do the certificate. So the question on the certificate is, who signs the certificate?
So if I remember correctly from DoD CIO, that would be at the command level. Who established the panel? It would be one of the members of the panel. So it could be the supervisor, the workforce PM, the ISSM, all of the various ones. Those are the folks that are going to sign off and say, us together, we did this evaluation and we're granting the experience credential to this employee.
Okay, and we didn't set this up beforehand, so Emily's going to get real mad at me real quick. So, okay, so the commander does not have to sign the cert. If a supervisor signed that certification, we'd be good. What do you got, Josh?
Just to clarify, this is what we talked about with DoD CIO. So we talked about this yesterday, specifically on the side. So for the certification and in the SOP, in the instructions for the cert, we do not have that in the document of the SOP yet. So DoD is going to go back and re-add and look at some of the information on who signs that, basically putting it at the command level, just like the LOD, where the CO, the commanding officer, can delegate who would sign that within the command. So it's still at the authority of the CO. If he delegates, as Emily mentioned, the supervisor or somebody could sign it then, but to that point, the commanding officer is solely responsible, and that is what we are going to work with, either getting in SecNav policy or potentially in the update to the SOP, which DoD CIO has agreed to look at.
Thank you. I think just my only other question would be, are there any questions in chat about the experience credentials so they could ask those to the folks in the room?
So the only question, Chad, is where is the SOP available on the experience? And it's at cyber.mil.
I'm going to have a follow-up question on that. Is the workbook that Navy built, is that also on cyber.mil, or is just the worksheet and you'd have to find the workbook somewhere else?
It is just the worksheet that is on it. DoD said they were not going to post to the workbook because that would change. So they were only willing to. So it is up to the site whether they want to look at the KSATs that are listed on cyber.mil for each workbook code, and you have to have 70% of those to get the experience work. So 70% of all the KSATs listed for that work role code in order to get an experience certificate.
Okay.
But we can make available on perhaps Navy Cool the DCWF workbook that already has those KSATs listed, and then they can mark it from there.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the next question. Where can you find? I'll actually give an answer on it too. So for the Navy, I'm gonna think it's gonna be on the Navy Cool site, the new page the Navy has for cyber workforce. And then for the Marine Corps, on the Information Development Institute site under 8140 resources, you can find the workbook. And it is the experience workbook, right? So it has all the KSATs. Understandably, when you're working through the experience credential, KSATs are gonna change. So that's one of the reasons for the workbook not being put out, right? Because it's a ton of work to try and keep up with that. So you may have to check your KSATs every once in a while when you're going through the workbook, but at least has the process in there. You can work through the workbook and then fill out the worksheet and finalize everything.
Correct.
Okay.
There was a question about using on-the-job training to gain the experience. I want to point out the limitation to the experience workbook is you had to be incumbent and coded as of 13 December 2023, or excuse me, 2024. When the SOP was signed is the effective date, and they said that at that point you can use the experience workbook. So that you cannot use on-the-job training to gain experience because that is going forward. They had to have had the experience as of that time. And is only applicable to DoD civilians that can use that credential.
Got it. So once again, it's only applicable to DoD civilians who were encumbered as of December 2024.
Yes.
Okay.
And coded. So encumbered and coded as
Covered
cyber.
and coded. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you.
We did have another question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Commander Witz at Airpac. His follow-on question, how do I get that in TWIMS? Is it available in TWIMS yet, or is that still coming?
The experience certificate?
Yes.
So there's going to be there's a drop down that says qualification related in the upload document sections. You would
Okay.
upload that certificate and then it's going to trigger to track the readiness.
Because
on it.
right now for civilians, right, the residential tab is missing, at least for all my civilians, on the CWF, like for their individual page, right, the residential tab is not there for my civilians.
Residential or the,
Right, so I just want to make sure I understand where to upload it, so, thanks.
yep. And we can definitely work with you if you want to, we can look into your profile and see why residential is not appearing for your civilians.
Just for civilians.
Yeah, because it should be there for everybody. So we can work with you and check your profile through TWIMS.
So there was another question on chat on a different subject. When the uncertainty of the DoD civilian workforce settles, could we potentially have a reset of cyber IT, cyber skill sets in the DoD civilian workforce?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
When the uncertainty of the DoD civilian workforce settles, could we potentially have a reset of the cyber IT, cybersecurity skill sets in the DoD civilian workforce?
I mean, I think that there's a process in place for evaluating the qualifications of the workforce today. I can't say from what is going on with the new administration what may arise, but I think we have a great framework and policies in place for how we're tracking and qualifying the workforce today.
And if you specifically mean qualification reset, the DoD team is looking at the qualifications for all of their owned elements, the 3 that they own, and they are putting out quarterly updates, or ad hoc right now, but quarterly updates in the future. So if you're asking about a reset for the qualifications, more qualifications will be added over time on a quarterly basis.
So I just wrote, so there's just a follow-up question to whoever asked that question. Did that answer your question? Because reset to me kind of threw me out. There's a ton of different things we could look at for reset, but it was opening with some stuff going on and a settling of that. So just kind of wanted to understand what reset meant, but if what was provided answered your question, perfect. But if it didn't, just let us know what reset meant. Okay. Well, they respond later, then we'll know if we need to.
I
say
will
something
tell
else.
you that as soon as we hear anything, we talk with DoD CIO team all the time. We have a biweekly sync with them, and we have that standing meeting. We are asking for updates. We need to know what's going on. They let us know the latest and greatest. Sometimes it's hearing TBD, and so, but we are still asking. So if anything was to arise that is changing in what is going on with the DCWF or the qualifications, they will let us know, and we will definitely get the message out to you all as soon as we have it. Is there any other questions? Mr. Gorak himself will comment.
So I don't know what she means by uncertainty, but I think uncertainty is a mindset we all have to stay with. It's part of being agile and flexible, right? Adhering to uncertainty. This workforce, we will not stand still. We will always be changing and updating, okay? Part of my commitment to you is that responsiveness word. So if you don't like a work rule, if that case set isn't correct, you need to let us know through the dawn, and we will work to change it. Because that's what we do. My job is to be responsive to you, the operator, so you can do your mission. So tell me what the requirement is, we'll work at it and change it, and then we'll push it back down to you. So I am not slowing down. Every 90 days, every quarter we have a swim bee, every quarter I'm gonna recommend changes. That's my commitment to you. So get used to being in an uncertain environment, get used to qualifications changing, get used to KSATs changing, because that is the future. So, and good communication always helps her.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, we got, are we on track? We are on track. We got 1 minute. So we will go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Captain Pinder, who will speak to us about the residential qualifications out at NCDOC. All over. We'll hear all of it. We can come right up here.
Greetings, everyone. As mentioned, I am Captain Sharon Pinder. I'm the commanding officer of the Navy Cyber Defense Operations Command. What's unique about NCDOC? We sit in sunny Suffolk, Virginia, about 1,000 people strong. We are the Navy's cyber security service provider. So for all of the Navy, about 800,000 different endpoints at this point. So we are the DCO task force for the Navy. I also have the Navy Red Team, which is one of the 13 DoD certified red teams. And I have my Navy Hunt team as well, which consists of both my 2 CPTs, cyber protection teams that I have ADCON, and the Navy cyber defense teams that deploy on the expeditionary strike groups and carrier strike groups. So that's kind of all of us in a nutshell. It's the CSSP informed by intel that drive us to go fast. And uniquely, of course, we are the only one in the Navy. So the OJT residential qual really sits very high as a priority for us in how we do business. When I first reported to NCDOC, I think in July of 2023, kind of the standard was, and as has been my experience coming from the Cyber National Mission Force, there was no advanced training. There was no training that was tailored to the work that we were being asked to do. So at that time, we were going and doing our very best. We were finding SANS courses that kind of tied to the work we were trying to do. And the same happened when I got to NCDOC. We were using a lot of like professional certifications. We had contracts with SANS to get some courses, and we had the standard CISSP, Certified Ethical Hacker, CISM certifications that people could get. But the problem with that, from my perspective, is that does not prepare people to be operationally ready and relevant at their work role and position on the keyboard. So with that, I've been given the opportunity today to both pull this up and just talk a little bit about it. I always like to start with a little humor, but in really the why we needed to do something different for training is because we all know that people are our most important thing. That's it. Like people, sailors, this is our most important aspect of everything that we do inside of the DoD and the Navy. And so therefore we require and we are required to invest in them to make them be their best. So the human capital is what makes us fight and win. So I'm going to tell a little story. Once upon a time in Cyberville, Acme Training Incorporated, they launched this brand new program that blended residential training and the on-the-job training to make sure every character was cybersecurity a whiz. So the residential training, in the cozy cyber training camp, we had Daffy Duck, who was trying to master phishing prevention, but often got tangled up with those fake emails. We had Porky Pig, who was learning about password security, multi-factor authentication, although his stutter made for some amusing mishaps. We also had Elmer Fudd, who was working the network security and encryption piece. And he would always say things like, be very, very quiet. I'm trying to cryptograph this. Okay. So then onto the on-the-job training part. Once those tunes had that feel of their classroom training, it was time for some real-world cyber challenges, right? So, of course, Bugs Bunny, he's demonstrating that incident response, those skills by outsmarting all of Elmer Fudd's attacks into the mainframe. Because Bugs Bunny, it's what he does, right? Then there's Wile E. Coyote, who learned the importance of patch management while also trying, and hilariously failing, to keep his cyber systems from crashing. Then there was Sylvester the cat. He's practicing that intrusion detection skill, and he was monitoring for any suspicious activities, but mainly Tweety Bird sneakiness. And one day, during a really chaotic cyber training exercise, Tweety Bird observed from above tweeting, I taught a security breach. For the record, NCDOC, we see about 8 billion alerts every single day that come across our watch floor. But that's not this. Then the Roadrunner, who is zooming by in his trail, leaving a trail of secure encrypted data and a beep beep, just to signify speed and efficiency, which is what we have to do. So at the end of the day, Bugs Bunny gathers everyone for a pep talk. He says, hey, what's up, Doc? Of course. And the reason we do both residential training and on-the-job training, it's really simple. So residential training lets us practice the fundamentals without pressure, and it builds a solid foundation, of course. But it's really on the job where we really learn to adapt and outsmart the threats, and just like our crazy toon characters that we're talking about here. So the combination of the two in the wacky world of Looney Tunes, kind of funny, kind of cute, but also in the DoD and the DON, it's really the imperative to build this resilient warfighting force that we've been called upon to do. So I'd like to walk through just a couple of things that compel us to do it this way. Of course, we have law, and if everyone's not aware, the most recent law that we have has the Chance to Compete Act. The Chance to Compete Act is really a skills-based technical assessment that allows us to hire and not focus on people's degrees or their certifications. It's signed on 23 December of 2024. I'm sure you've all talked about that, but that's a pretty significant change in how we are able to bring people in. It's not about your college degree, it's not about your certification, it's your skills. And if we're using the CWF, the 8140.03 appropriately, people come with a training jacket where you can verify those skills are validated, and it's a really easy way to know on day one that you have somebody that's trained and ready, qualified to do the job that you're gonna put them in. Next up was the Chance to Compete Act that was signed, I think, 21 January last week, and that's a skills-based hiring, sorry, I just talked about that. Chance-based compete, the executive order is the next thing I was gonna say. The executive order on merit-based proficiency, that's the next thing that was signed by President Trump on 21 January. That's to restore the merit-based opportunities as well. So those two things happening, and these line up with the CNO's NAV plan, and if you recall in the NAV plan, 2 strategic ends, readiness for the possibility of war with PRC in China by 2027. Of course, in cyber, you know we're in persistent contact with the adversary every single day. But, and 2, enhancing that long-term advantage. And as I started with, that requires an investment in people, and this is where we are. People, training, making it relevant, making it trackable, making it valid, and fungible across the entirety of the DoD, which is what the CWF 8140.03 does. So further on into this, the CNO's directed that we do these ends using two mutually reinforcing ways. We've got to do it with implementing Project 33 and expanding the Navy's contribution to the joint warfighting ecosystem. This is that. So for Project 33, it does have that strategic goal of recruiting and retaining talent, investing in warfighter competency. Let's stomp that. That's that OJT that we have to do differently. And specifically improving the live, virtual, and constructive training models that are available to do that, right? So we have to model, we have to sim, we have to have range, we have to practice, we've got to do the repetitions and sets to get better and to build that confidence as warfighters. Going into the next piece of policy, and I'll bring this all back around for us, the Information Security Superiority Vision 2.0 by Don CIO, the key pillars: optimize, secure, and decide. Being cyber ready is required now, and so as a result, we have to change how we do things today. So in my assessment at NCDOC, I didn't like the certification-only approach. I thought that the better approach would be something like, okay, let's figure out how we can partner with industry, because industry's been doing this a lot better at scale, much faster, and they have developed multiple types of training tracks to aid their workforce in becoming more proficient. Why not capitalize on what that is? That's the OJT we've sought. So hey, let's look at how we can do labs. I don't know, I don't pick your vendor, but in my case, we've chosen for my CSSP, immersive labs. Immersive labs and the customer experience allows them to build specific work role training that is trackable, that is in a database, that's uploadable, it's verifiable, and they kind of do it in a crawl, walk, run sort of way, so that you start out getting a lot more prompts and tips, and then as the operator becomes more proficient, it removes those training wheels for you. And as they go over time, you can see their proficiency, how much time they spend doing that work, and you can also look at it like with a leaderboard kind of perspective. So this is a leadership tool to allow you to, I guess, demand that your workforce train and not be content with the skills that they had from 2 years ago, 6 months ago, because we are seeing the technological advances go faster than we can keep pace. So it is a leadership imperative and a call to action really to draw that line for people, to make that the primary mission, because our human capital and our people are our most important things that are going to ensure that we fight and win this war in 2027. So with that, I would like to say that the DoD CWF framework, it's one of those things where you think about it, you're like, it's yet another thing to track and do. No, this is leadership business, because this is how we can make unity of effort work, gives us a unified framework, and makes people fungible. This is part of the CNO's plan to make us integrated, the Navy more integrated into joint warfighting, because we all speak the same language, we have the same training jackets, and we can understand exactly what skills we need to place people in, period. Can't do that with just a certification. You can assume that certification at that time meant that they studied really well, they passed the test, but that doesn't make them proficient. With this kind of training, and I'll go back to immersive labs, it keeps track of how proficient they are, how well they're doing. There's a leaderboard score, and there's some kind of a dopamine, I think, release that you get out of that, seeing that you're crushing it and you're doing well. So it motivates people to not only challenge themselves, to challenge their peers, but to get in there and to learn more. And I know with the new 8140.03, you can qualify in up to 3 different work roles. And so that really allows you to have that resilient, ready workforce. I'll keep using all the buzzwords because this is why it matters. This is leadership business, because we have to take charge and do something different to really focus on investing in our people in investing in training, qualifications that are trackable, verifiable, and that are meeting the evolving technology, which means we're partnering with industry to do that at speed and scale. There is no way that Pensacola at any time is going to be able to deliver from CWF Pensacola, and this is no knock on them. They're not going to be able to deliver a curriculum fast enough to keep pace with, oh, I don't know, pick your technology today. We're in every single cloud, every single hyperscaler. We have to be able to fight and defend that. There's nothing that prepares sailors to do that. So rather than rely on ourselves, we ask for help. And that's these industry partnerships, but then making it relevant back into the CWF, tying it to the work roles that they are coded with, tracking it, having a valid training jacket with this information that goes with them forever. So when the Chance to Compete Act comes up, you can look across the DoD or across wherever, and you can pull people in knowing that they have the skills that you need for the exact job that you have in your operational role. Complete flexibility. And I think this is a leadership tool, leadership imperative, and this is the call to action. So with that, I am happy to take any questions or exit the stage. I mean, this is day 4. I knew I had to start with Looney Tunes because, you know, this is a little rough. Good morning.
Morning, Captain. Keith Critchlow, Live Virtual Constructive out of Norfolk. My question is that we are moving forward with the DCWF and we have a lot of certifications and paper cross your I's and T's documentation. The new program you just mentioned seems more like we'll be able to go out and get a skill set that the person hasn't sat down and taken a test. But how are we going to implement that into, hey, you must have this documentation?
I can't answer on the administrative side of that, but your point is very valid. How do you take certifications or different training that are done outside of something that's been tracked and in their training jacket and validate it? There probably has to be some kind of skills assessment test. That's the thing that I believe that the executive order, the Chance to Compete, allows us to do, is allow us to give them a test. So we have to develop something that becomes the standard. You take the test, it's proficient, then you can probably, and I'm speaking above my skis, probably be granted some level of comparative training qualification. But that's just my opinion. I have no idea if that will be how it's implemented.
Maybe Emily could, have we looked at this at all, that we're going to, I know that the experience eventually goes away because we have to go back to the certifications or the education, and you're only incumbent with the experience. This seems to fall more into experience and skill set.
So,
Please.
I'll just grab one of these, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so, yes, here we go. Where are we at? Okay, turn it this way. All right, I'll get it figured out. All right. Okay, so you're talking about foundational, right? Remember, foundational is a level of knowledge you come in with, right? It is only an expectation. It's like if I bring a Marine in who just went to the schoolhouse, I know what that Marine learned because I know what they do at the schoolhouse because we have CCRBs, we have TNR events, right? My job when the Marine comes in is to train that Marine, give them their OJT, give them that extra training that is required to meet what they need to do and to keep up as things change. That's that piece to that. So that's where residential comes into play. All of this gets documented, but what we're working on is how we do that, right? So in other words, if we're going to give a skills assessment, well, first of all, you got to have a place to get a skills assessment. The captain has a lab that they're using. How do we get a range across the DoD that we can use, that you can put these things in play, and you can do all the things they're doing at NCDOC to track and validate and put that into your training jacket. That training jacket that gets loaded into the documentation, and that's how you document, because we still got to go back to the compliance requirement, right? There's always a piece of compliance to this, right? Somebody's got to show the work that gets the money, but that's that piece. That's that part. We can take care of that over here. We'll worry about the documentation. The big deal is what they're doing at NCDOC is getting all those things in place so we can ensure that we have that right, ready workforce working, and we're providing the training to get them where they need to be.
Yep.
I hope that answered the question.
It does. Thank you. And what we're doing with that is, hey, we're going to take these map roles. We'll map out those KSAs, the different training playlists, the different courses that we need, and that will be the OJT that they do. But utilizing some of our industry partners, we're working through United Knowledge Institute, UKI, and I think they have some APIs and other things that they can build that takes the data from the immersive labs and hack the box, and it keeps track of the skill sets that people have. So this allows us to better understand the fit, not just the feel of the sailor, the fit of the type of qualifications and training that they've done over time to capture their proficiencies, because we're a one-off. And so if I say, hey, I need a forensic analyst, find me one. And if inside of their training jacket, because they are tracked under the DCWF program, they have this forensic analyst work that they've done, this SANS course, or whatever, I'll be able to know that I would like to select that person because I need them here as a tier 2 forensic analyst at NCDOC. So it works outside of the NEC system. It's completely fungible and movable, I think, across the entirety of the DoD and not, relegated to a Navy system.
And so the next question may be, how are we going to do all this? NCDOC can go throughout NCDOC or maybe even through the Navy to grab things. But there is a program out there. I won't say the name because I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name. There's a program being built right now. CDAO is taking it over, and that is going to collect data to be able to see that exact thing across the entirety of the DoD. So if you're doing your data right, if you're training your people, if you have a way to get all the training jackets put into place so you know the skill sets of all your folks, you can actually code your people instead of just coding your billets. You now have people who are qualified in a certain work role. You can see that across the DoD, and then you can go, I got a gig here, I got surge, I got something. Can I get 50 folks over here? And you can put an application out there because it's a gig, right? And that might be a clue to where to look up here. And then, an American Eagle, K. All right, I gave it to you. Sorry. So then you have a chance to look across the entirety. It's called Gig Eagle. Go ahead, you can look it up. It's called Gig Eagle. It was done by the Defense Innovation Unit, and CDAO is now taking it over. But this allows you to basically know, you can put in a gig for somebody, people can apply, and you can bring people over to your gig. So this is where our next step is going, right? Someone realized that we need to understand the skill set across the DoD, and we're like, let's build this thing. And so now everything that's being done across here through NCDOC, all those things will start showing up, and the ability to move people around and maneuver within the DoD or within the service, we'll have that capability to be able to do that because we'll be able to see and understand the workforce. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for your time. Are there any other questions? Or I'll defer them all to Chief Wolford.
So, first, Sharon, thanks for what you guys are doing. So I have two questions, but we'll start with the easy one. One of my concerns is we do a lot of training, like you said, on the job. As we learn on the job in small elements across the DoD, how do we then pass that knowledge throughout the department?
I think there are some initiatives there to do such. I'll give you one such example. So as the Navy CSSP, I was designated by US Cybercom as the joint curriculum writer for CSSP JQR. As such, I have 6 JQR to write, but the particulars of that are that I'm supposed to write them to the US Cybercom standards such that they can be federated to the other services. So this then takes it broader to the DoD US Cybercom level. With that, we are then exporting the knowledge, the skills, and their requirement for federating it means that we have to build it using developers in PCTE. So with it being in PCTE, it's something that's shareable, knowable, touchable, and something that everyone else can benefit from across the
What's
DoD.
the timeline to make that happen?
The timeline depends on resources in a lot of cases. So they would assign me as the joint curriculum writer. However, there was no funding attached to it. So I have the POM requested and the unfunded requirements, and any additional money that I get towards it, I'm putting towards having UKI build my JQR alongside my operators. So with that, we're then federating that knowledge and those skills and the lessons we've learned out of NCDOC into the greater DoD for anybody to qualify in those work roles, they will go through and they will have the skills that we've already learned and move through.
So
That was
work-
the easy question.
Work with my team on this because I think we have to enterprise the solution and we have to turn this much faster.
Okay.
So as we learn to inject today, how does, if you do, how does the Army know about it tomorrow?
It'll be well, because it was CyberCon published, Army was tasked with things too, and so was the Air Force. The Air Force had things to do for CSSP, JQR. But we all will know because we're supposed to go in and use those.
Okay. Second question, and this gets to skills assessments. I try to be very clear when I say an assessment. To me, an assessment is not a written test. It's not an A, B, C, D answer.
Concur.
It is hack the box. It's a range. It's actually testing your skills. You will fail, and we're
Yes.
measuring that also. So we're trying to get after the soft skills also.
Yes.
The next step of that, in my opinion, and I would like to hear what you think, is if we do skills-based assessment hiring, how do we then transition to what you're talking about, skills-based assessment continuously? So think of what we need for our qualification, where we're at for our qualification, not only of the force or individuals, but then also our teams, because as your great example, if you're not working as a team, then we're not effective. And then think of how we grade or do performance evals of our teams and of our individuals, and how do we get to that next step?
All right, that was not an easy question. Had multiple parts. So the initial thought is, hey, we look for validated existing labs and licenses that test skills. That goes in the training jacket. Are you concerned that they're not continuing over time to evolve and continue to grow? And so how do you make the assessment again? I think you have to have an assessment at some periodicity that is competent or, cooperates with your mission to decide if the person has the skills for the exact job role. I don't know how that becomes scaled over time. I know I can do it for my command. I'll keep thinking about that. Yeah. But people do have to continue to prove and continue to work. And it's like, as a former surface warfare officer, you have to requalify on your platform whenever you get to your next ship. So it doesn't mean you're not a qualified officer of the deck. It means you have to show you still have the skills and the know-how and how to navigate that particular ship. So there will have to be a skills assessment to make sure that you are able to do that. And we have that through Hack the Box, and we can see where they are, and we can measure that and remediate that as well with the training that's inside of those modules. And I'm not necessarily pressing those. Those are just the two that I'm using right now. Any other questions? All right, right on. Thank you. I'm running away before anyone else.
I just want to say I'm going to make it about me one time, every time, because I am the son. A few years ago at Don IT East, the guy set up on a panel, and he was like, they were like, Mr. Ryder was like, how do we train people? And I was like, one day there's this guy, Neo, it was Mr. Anderson at the point in time, and he was like, he's just Mr. Anderson hanging out there, right? And Morpheus was like, no. That's Neo. And he's like, but I need to do some stuff for Neo, for Mr. Anderson to make him Neo. And do you all know what he put him inside of? The construct. I just want to say it. I love it. It's like we have the construct now, right? We are almost there. I can't wait for Morpheus to show up. I think Morpheus should be like, if you have a lead for that whole program, that person's name should be Morpheus, just right now. It should be, or the Oracle, whichever way, we got to use one of those names for that, but I just think it's awesome. Sorry, I just wanted to say that it's cool that we have a way to be able to
This is
get
the
into a
way.
live virtual construct.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead, we'll break, and we will come back for another virtual presentation from Ms. Dawn Fish on our HR aspects. 9:35, we'll start.